Hi, Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, May 9th, after a chilly, windy, damp few days in the Mid-Atlantic region. A nice stretch of weather is coming for that part of the nation thanks to strong high pressure that's situated over northern New England, southeastern part of Canada. A strong low pressure system that passed over the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region earlier in the past weekend has now pushed out over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, but thanks in large part to that strong high pressure system to the north, it'll actually retrograde, meaning move back to the west later in the week, back to the east coast of the U.S., and it looks like some of its moisture field will interact with a northern stream system at the end of the week or into the upcoming weekend, and some of its moisture field as a result could push northward back into the Mid-Atlantic region by the upcoming weekend. There'll be significant rainfall over the next several days across the Pacific Northwest and eastward to the northern plains, but much of the southwestern part of the nation will experience a dry next several days. This is a forecast map of total precipitation amounts for the next 5 days between this morning, Monday morning, and Saturday morning. And first of all, this moisture here is later in the week, as that low pressure area, which is now situated out over the western part of the Atlantic, spins around for a couple of days and then is kind of forced back to the west. And it'll probably reach the Carolina coastline during the latter part of the week and then kind of drop to the south and west for a little while. Then a northern stream system comes in and may force its moisture back up northward along the eastern seaboard. It does not look like it'll be a powerful system, but it may take on some tropical characteristics. Would be surprised if this low is reclassified as a subtropical system later in the week and into the upcoming weekend as it makes a return back to the west into the eastern seaboard region. Meanwhile, a lot of rainfall over the next several days across the Pacific Northwest and the northern plains, but the southwestern states, not unusual for this time of the year, will experience very likely a dry 5-day period. Well, let's walk through the 0Z run of the GFS, the operational version of the GFS. I wanted to first start off by looking at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Question now is, are we done with the cold air outbreaks into the eastern part of the nation, the central and eastern part of the nation? It certainly looks like we'll have a nice stretch of weather for the next several days throughout the Northeast, throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. Increasingly mild conditions as well, probably pushing the mid to upper 70s easily by the second half of the work week at places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. I think the short answer is no, we are not necessarily done with the cold air outbreaks yet, but we'll see how this week looks pretty mild throughout much of the country. First of all, starting off with cooler than normal conditions in the eastern part of the nation. This is again the 850 millibar temperature anomaly. It's quite cold over California and quite warm over the middle part of the nation. Let's kind of move quickly forward, and all this warmer than normal air gradually works its way into the eastern U.S. During the middle part and latter part of the week. But the focus of the warmer than normal air for the next several days will be over the northern plains, the upper part of the Midwest, and colder than normal air out across the western states. Then we move forward into the end of the work week. Here we are by Friday and Saturday, and watch what happens. We start to see some colder air again building up in southwestern part of Canada. And while this week may be pretty warm in the eastern U.S., it looks like we may get back to normal, maybe even some colder than normal air masses crossing the Great Lakes by the middle part of next week, and then ultimately into the northeastern part of the nation. We're now a week and a half from now towards the end of next week into the following weekend, and here we go, another colder than normal air mass. But they certainly look like they'll become a little bit less frequent and stick around for a little bit shorter than what has been the case over the past several weeks, at least for the eastern third of the nation. Now let's walk through the vorticity field here. This is at 500 millibars, and again we had a strong low pressure system that first moved from the middle of the nation to the Ohio Valley, and then from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region, then latter part of the past weekend out over the western Atlantic. Here's where we sit right now with the vorticity field out over the western part of the Atlantic. It'll tend to spin around for a few days. Here we are by tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, and then it starts to make a move back to the west. Notice here by the middle part of the week, this is by Thursday, it moves from around here south and west towards the Florida coastline, the Georgia coastline here by the latter part of the week, and then take a look at here, a pretty strong system out over the Rocky Mountains, and that tends to move to the north and east and interact with this system by the upcoming weekend. We'll move forward here and watch what happens. This is starting to slide with a secondary system into the Pacific Northwest. We're all the way out to Friday now. Stalled out low, has back to the southeastern coastline. A lot of waves of energy pushing across the northern stream from the northwest to the northern plains, and hence that rainy weather pattern that we saw a moment ago from the northern plains to the Pacific Northwest. But again, they could end up kind of merging with this system and pull its moisture field up along the eastern seaboard, let's say in the late Friday, Saturday time frame. Certainly could be warm, but could also be some shower activity moving up into the mid-Atlantic region by Saturday, let's say, as this system kind of interacts and helps to move this moisture off to the north by the end of the work week or the early part of the weekend. Do not expect a heavy kind of a situation in terms of rain as we experienced in the mid-Atlantic region during this past weekend, but nonetheless, watch out for the potential of showers at the end of the week or into the weekend that stalled out low, backs to the west, and ultimately could interact with northern stream energy to push to the north during the upcoming weekend. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps. Here's that low pressure area. Again, earlier last week it was over the central plains. It helped to produce some severe weather in Texas and across portions of the deep south. Then it roamed over the Ohio Valley, then the Mid-Atlantic region, causing a significant rain event. Now over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, and its eastward progress is kind of grinded to a halt. It's starting to kind of circulate around here, and then it'll rotate around and slide all the way back to the southeastern states, maybe near the coastline by Thursday, and ultimately will then probably make a move to the north at the end of the week, or maybe as late as the upcoming weekend. Here we are by Saturday. Again, kind of a warm pattern, but the chance of showers as that moisture returns back to the north along the eastern seaboard by the upcoming weekend. It could end up being a couple of days of a damp weather pattern until a frontal system arrives in the Mid-Atlantic region about a week from now. Early next Monday, let's say, right here, there's a frontal system that'll kind of tend to clear off that moisture field. Again, stalled out low pressure over the western Atlantic right now will back towards the U.S. East Coast by the midweek, by the latter part of the week, and then its moisture field could interact with northern stream energy to push northward back into the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation this upcoming weekend. All of it may clear away again in about a week's time after the next strong frontal system crosses from the Great Lakes into the northeastern part of the nation. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.